Welcome to the Bowden Blitz SEC edition. I'm Joe Lisi, joined by former National Coach of the Year, Terry Bowden. Coach, we're entering round two of the college football playoff. The SEC does have 3 teams remaining. We'll take a look at the updated odds entering the round 2 games. You see Ohio State, followed by number 1 seed Indiana, Georgia, Oregon, and then Ole Miss at the bottom at 22-1. Thoughts about where these 3 SEC teams are, and in fact, could one of them be a national champion?
Well, I think Georgia's obviously, to me, the best team in the best position to get to that championship. Now, I will say this, the championship might be played in the semifinal game if they get past Ole Miss and get to Ohio State. That may be the biggest game of the year right there as far as those 2 teams are concerned. But I think Georgia is your SEC team with the best chance of moving forward. Alabama has got to come back and beat Indiana. Ole Miss has got to beat Georgia, find a way to beat Georgia. They're going to be underdogs in those games. And so I think they would have to have they would have to play their best on that day. I think everybody that's left so far in the playoffs on a given day, they can play with anybody. But when you're talking about odds, I think Ole Miss is kind of having that special year, but they're going to have to step up and play their very best. And Alabama is a team that's one-dimensional, playing against one of the best football teams in the country.
Oh, let's take a look at Alabama. They get the victory over Oklahoma as a slight underdog. They win it by 10 points, 34-24. They end their season in the regular season at 10-3. Kalen DeBoer was on the hot seat, but he found enough mojo late in the second quarter and more importantly in the second half to pull away from Oklahoma and Brett Venables. Could this team in any capacity potentially strike the upset over top-ranked Indiana? We know how dominant Indiana has been. They knocked off Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. From what you've seen from this team from start to finish, entering round number 2, do they have at least something that potentially could strike the upset against the Hoosiers in their round 2 matchup?
Yeah, they've just got enough talent. They've got enough talent. They play just good enough on defense. It's not great, but it's good. Their quarterback and their wide receivers can score from anywhere, and that's where it's going to have to come from. Now, they have to do a better job in their running game. Even when they try, they don't do very well. Even when they beat Oklahoma, they did not run very well. And that's probably going to be their downfall, is that they can't be a two-dimensional offense. They can't give you enough of diversity to hurt a good defensive football team. But you know what? When you've got the type of talent that Alabama has, especially at quarterback and wideout, it just takes one explosive play, one deep ball to take away a 6.5-point spread, becomes a 7 points and you're ahead. And so I think, yes, because Alabama has that kind of talent, skill position at wide receiver and quarterback, they're never out of the football game. But again, they're facing some uphill battle because they can't stay balanced. Their quarterback's going to be under pressure. They're throwing it when people expect to throw. You know, the great deep balls are when you run the football, get some short yardage situations, and they're trying to stop the run, and you just nail them with the deep ball.
When you look at their head coach, Kalen DeBoer, he was on the hot seat, potentially linked to the Michigan job before that win in Norman last Friday night. Give me your thoughts about where DeBoer is when we look at the SEC coaches. Clearly, he does have an advantage over Pete Golding for Ole Miss because Golding has only coached in one game, being on an interim staff after Lane Kiffin has moved on. But compare him to Kirby Smart, that has won 2 national championships. I mean, he makes second-half adjustments, but we've seen Kalen DeBoer at times come out with his team flat. He certainly did that in the game against Oklahoma earlier in the year in Tuscaloosa. Obviously, week 1 against Florida State. Is he the real deal when we talk about elite head coaches?
Well, I think at Alabama, there's a different level of expectation. And you're never completely off the hot seat unless you're winning national championships. That's just the way it is and the way it's going to be. Right now, his seat's not hot. He just won a game in the first round of the playoffs. They're feeling pretty good about it. But he did not play for the SEC championship. If he got blown out by Indiana, he's going to be back on the hot seat. And I promise you, whoever represents him will be opening their ears up and listening to Michigan. Because the problem with Alabama is that they're never satisfied. If you can't be a Bear Bryant or a Nick Saban, and you can look at the number of coaches that not have been fired, but have said, you know what, I can't. I can't make them happy. I got to go somewhere else where I can make people happy. Sounds crazy, but that's the history of Alabama. So he needs to have a good game. If he plays close, has a good solid game against Indiana, I think everything's fine. But if it's an ugly game and Indiana dominates, he's back. I mean, it's going to be a miserable offseason, no matter how good they did.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how that game plays out. Coach and I will be on next week breaking down that round 2 matchup. Alabama enters that battle 6.5-point underdogs to top-ranked Indiana and Kurt Cignetti. You mentioned Georgia as being your choice as the best shot in the conference to potentially win a national championship. We've seen Kirby Smart and this team evolve, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially with that win over Georgia Tech, and then they carried that in to their SEC championship win over Alabama. It's the first back-to-back SEC championships for the University of Georgia dating back to 1982. He's won 2 national championships. This team is 12-1 overall. Give me your thoughts about just where they are, because they're physical at the point of attack. They have one of the best rushing offenses in the college football playoff. And if you can't shut down the rushing attack of the Bulldogs, good luck trying to upset them in a second-round matchup.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's right now, they're gelling at the right time, and defensively better and better. The quarterback, offense, they're playing their best football. But Kirby Smart has created a monster there too. He hasn't won the national championship. What 3 years now since he won the national championship? They get impatient with them, but he's got a chance. And boy, buddy, if Ole Miss were to come back and play a great football game, and they didn't get beat by much. He had to come back to beat them last time, but I think they will. But he's really creating a monster there. He's not on any hot seat, but he's just done a great job. And they are playing the way we think they'll play and get past this next round because of their overall defensive philosophy, their running game philosophy, and their head coach's ability to make adjustments late in the football game.
We'll see exactly how Georgia plays against Ole Miss. Let's not forget, they trailed at the half in Athens, 21-16. They made second half adjustments, were able to pull it out and win that matchup and cover as a 7.5-point home favorite against the Rebels. When you look at the Rebels, we saw them dominate against Tulane. Their interim head coach, Pete Golding, inexperienced in his second game as a head coach. What could he possibly bring to the table? And does Ole Miss potentially have what it takes to knock off Georgia in a neutral site game, Coach?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a neutral site, and I think that's definitely a lot better than playing in Athens. Oh, definitely could happen. The quarterback, they've got a good balanced offense. They run and they throw, and they've got a great togetherness with their football team. I think Golding's playing with house money. He's had a good opening win. He's already set, they're all excited because they're moving forward right now. But it would be great if he could make good showing. They'll have to play well. Don't turn the ball over, the usual things in a big game like this. But if they get hot on offense, we've already seen them play Georgia once. The biggest thing with Georgia is Georgia has not been falling behind. That would not be a good situation in Georgia. If we saw them fall behind early, I'm not sure they're going to catch up this time.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the biggest thing for the Bulldogs, start fast, run the football.
Yeah.
We talk about Ole Miss having the worst rush defense in the college football playoff. They're allowing 147 rushing yards per game. Georgia did average well over 4.5 yards per carry in their first meeting, especially in the second half. They wore down that front seven. When Coach and I return, bowl games in the SEC. We'll talk about a few of them this coming weekend, specifically for the SEC. Coach Terry Bowden and Joe Lisi coming right back, breaking down college football bowl games and the second round of the college football playoff. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz. Joe Lisi and Coach Bowden breaking down the SEC bowl games. We'll start with a really good matchup. ACC, SEC ball game between Tony Elliott and Virginia going up against the Missouri Tigers and Eli Drinkwitz. Drinkwitz did get an extension right at the end of the year. He'll be there for the next 4 or 5 seasons in Columbia. When you look at this team overall, they finished 8-4, had some quarterback concerns with Bo Prabula being injured in the middle part of the season. He is most likely going to transfer out of the program, will not play in this ball game. But for Virginia, Coach, you lost the ACC championship game to Duke. It knocked you out of the college football playoff. This team had a very dynamic year. Tony Elliott and the Cavaliers overexceeded expectations. They enter this matchup 4.5-point underdogs. Total sets in at 45.5. I sort of like the Cavaliers with the points in this ball game.
Well, if you like the Cavaliers, maybe it's the experience at quarterback that's one of their advantages. We had a quarterback who has started 45 games at 4 years of starting at 4 different schools. So he has a lot of experience. Where you got a Zollers at Missouri because Prabula has left or at least gotten into the portal. He's had only 3 starts, so you don't have a lot of experience at that position. The key for Missouri, again, they're going to have to use their running back with Ahmad Hardy. They've got the most yards of any running back in the conference, 1,500 yards for that running back. They will have to lean on him because, again, you've got that young quarterback and you don't know how he's going to play. Virginia is keyed up because 11 wins. If they would win this, they've never won 11 games in school history. So it would still be a big game. They're kind of down. They were down from blowing that conference championship against Duke. But they've got a chance to come back and have the most dynamic, the winningest team in school history.
I think, Virginia, to me, very blue collar. They can play up tempo with Chandler Morris. They could also run the football. When they're running the football effectively, they win ball games. And we saw Missouri, when they can run the football with Ahmad Hardy throughout the regular season, they had struggled to cover games as an underdog. They struggled against Oklahoma, struggled against Alabama. They did push that game, but still lost as a 3.5-point underdog at home. So the rushing attack will be critical for both teams. I just like Tony Elliott. I think this team will be more excited to be there, but we'll see how it plays out. That game is Saturday, Missouri and Virginia. Another battle taking place in the conference, LSU and Houston. Willie Fritz has done a fantastic job. This win total for the Houston Cougars checked in at 5.5. They blew through that number with a 9-win season. On the flip side, when you look at Frank Wilson and this interim staff, 7-5 overall. They limped to a regular season loss at Norman for LSU. Brian Kelly got fired. We've seen LSU step up in this spot. They went there last year and dominated Baylor, but Coach, no offensive consistency with the passing attack for LSU. Van Buren certainly isn't the answer. Is there any possibility that these players for LSU might be excited with Lane Kiffin maybe watching on and maybe have their sights set on 2026, or are they going to be checked out in this matchup?
The odds are is that there's too many people checked out. You've got so much instability right now at LSU in regard to this game. The future, everybody's thinking about next year. Everybody's so excited about Lane Kiffin. They don't even care about this game. They don't care about this. This season's over. We can't make it better. We've got half of our guys have opted out. Nussmeier's not playing. Most of our linebackers and defense are not playing. The head coach is interim, but he's getting ready to go to Ole Miss, so he's probably better off if Ole Miss wins. And you've got the coach coming in is not coaching at all, and Brian Kelly's sitting out there saying, gosh, I hope they lose because they don't have me. So really there's a lot of reasons why you can't have a lot of focus on this football game. That all being said, it's a football game. They have better athletes probably than Houston, but Willie Fritz is just he represents stability. He's successful wherever he's gone. It would be a huge game for them to come out with a victory over LSU. We're talking about a recruiting area that's very close to LSU and Houston. Those are big areas. So Houston has everything to play for. LSU, I don't know if the people, I really don't know if they care. In their minds, we just got Lane Kiffin. We're ready for next year. Let's get this game over with.
Yeah, and it's played in Houston, NRG Stadium, where the
Yeah.
Texans play. So, if anybody, hometown kids, you get the family coming out, going up against an SEC opponent. That's why you're seeing Houston instilled as a 2.5 point favorite in this ball game. Connor Wegman, the quarterback for Texas A&M that transferred in, has led this team. He's been hot and cold at times, but he can still run the football. I just like the physicality of Houston. When they run it, they're very physical and could score points. Something tells me, though, Coach, the 41.5 is a little light. I don't know if LSU wins, but I can tell you with the athletes that they possess. Now, Aaron Anderson, their big play wide receiver, will not play in this matchup. They still have speed on the perimeter. 41.5, seems very light to me. I like the over in this matchup.
Well, the problem I have is again, it's being a football coach. I wonder who's playing at what position, who all's there, on how will they play with these subs coming in? Are they motivated? I have a hard time deciding what team's going to come out at LSU, what kind of attitude. They'll look pretty coming out of the tunnel because they have wonderful athletes. But when you watch with how much energy they have when they stretch, you might see a little less focused on the football game. So I don't think I would bet on a lot of activity and a lot of points out of LSU, but I could be wrong because, like you say, they've got talent that's still on that football field.
Yeah, we'll see exactly how that plays out. 9:15 kick Saturday night. When you look at LSU as a whole, Coach, we've seen a lot of turnover. You talk about Lane Kiffin and this football team, big picture. Can Lane turn it around just off of 1 year? We've seen him do that with Ole Miss, knowing that there's possible attrition with star athletes moving on and knowing that he's up against it now with Golish and Summerall. LSU, we know, is a hotbed, but should they be a contender next year?
Well, I think there has been no one that does a better job in the portal than Lane Kiffin, and now he's got a much better product to sell. If it can be done, I think he can do it from a standpoint of being the salesman that he is and understanding how to work the portal like he does. So I would think that's kind of the reason he left Ole Miss, because he's going to a place where I think he can turn it around fast. Of all the teams in the SEC, I know they're talking about change at Florida and change at Auburn, change at Arkansas. LSU has the biggest chance to turn that thing around very quickly.
When we come back, more college football playoff talk coming up next. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz SEC edition. Joe Lisi, Coach Bowden, breaking down all things for the conference as it relates to the college football playoff. We also sprinkled in a little LSU talk. LSU is playing Houston Saturday night in their bowl matchup. We'll talk about Lane Kiffin and his former quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. Chambliss will be playing in the second round playoff matchup against top-ranked Georgia, but he's seeking a 6th year of eligibility, Coach. He put that in on November 16th. The decision's still not been made. This potentially hurts Lane Kiffin as it relates to his quarterback for next season. We've also heard reports that LSU has reached out to former Florida quarterback DJ Lagway. Give me your thoughts about both of those quarterbacks potentially moving on to Baton Rouge.
Well, you know what? And again, it's not unusual for the NCAA to be stuck with they've got a lot of kids trying to transfer. They've got a lot of different situations to look at when you talk about these guys looking for waivers or for additional years. So that may take a little bit of time. And I would think Lane Kiffin would know how good deep down he feels that Chambliss is. He's watched him every day in practice. He knows his mannerisms. He knows his character. He knows everything about him. DJ Lagway, I know has talent, but I would think he would be if he had his druthers. I think he's seen enough success in Chambliss that's where he probably would want to go. But again, I think that's got to play out. I do believe they've got not just one, but 1, 2, or 3 candidates, because you all never know quite which one you're going to get. But at LSU, you're probably going to have a pretty good choice of whichever one you want.
And it's a little bit, when you think about the success of LSU, dating back to
Right.
Joe Burrow. He wasn't the most mobile quarterback, but he still utilized his legs to make plays. Then you fast forward to Brian Kelly. He goes with Jaden Daniels, a Heisman Trophy winner for 2 seasons, and then Garrett Nussmeier for 2 seasons was a prototypical drop-back passer. He was not mobile in any capacity. When you look at Lane Kiffin's offense, he did coach up quarterbacks like Jackson Dart that are now playing with the New York Giants. Dart is very mobile, and Chambliss definitely fits that mold because he recruited him in Oxford, right? When you look at Lagway, we've seen Lagway be mobile at times, but the struggle that I have for LSU, if they do go to Lagway, we see one performance against top-ranked Miami. He throws for 61 yards. You can't have that if you're an LSU backer or fan wanting that for your offense in 2026.
It's kind of like drafting that first-round draft pick quarterback in the NFL. You better do your homework. You better know every single thing about him because you can't afford to make a mistake because in this day and age in college football, it's what have you done for me lately? And that's going to be the most important decision that Lane Kiffin makes as the new head coach at LSU. What direction is he going to go with that quarterback? Now, he knows because look at there, Trinidad Chambliss, he had no idea that would be the quarterback when he started. So you got to have plan A and plan B, and I'm sure he will. But again, you've got to make a great decision there because I think Brian Kelly, whatever quarterback he had, they didn't have the right offense to mix with it. And so many teams go out there and they find out they didn't get the right quarterback and it got them in trouble. I think that's what Lane Kiffin's strength has been in recognizing a quarterback that he can win with. And so I think he'll probably do a pretty good job of evaluation.
Yeah, when you look at Trinidad Chambliss, he comes on in the home win over Arkansas after former starter Austin Simmons gets hurt in the first quarter. He continues to put up 300-plus yards on Arkansas's defense. The Ole Miss Rebels win that game by 6 points, Coach. And Trinidad Chambliss now has his team in the second round of the playoffs going up against top-ranked Georgia. I mean, if potentially they don't make that move, Ole Miss is out of the playoffs.
And he beat Temple on him. He beat Temple. That's the way going from Ferris State was going to Temple. But the amazing thing is the fact that he's got 19 touchdown passes. That's not a lot compared to some of the leaders. But he didn't start to the fourth game of the season. But he's only got 3 interceptions. Makes good judgment decisions. He's got a lot of poise. I just love his poise. He's a really good runner, but he's not I don't think like Daniels, but he's a really good runner and thrower, but he seems to be a great decision maker as well. So again, there was a great find when they found him as a potential backup. The very fact that when you went to that backup, he ended up having the talent that he had was even a bigger credit for Lane Kiffin.
Absolutely. That second round matchup takes place next week. We will be on breaking down all the SEC and all the college football playoff battles on the Bowden Blitz. We'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the games. For Coach Bowden, I'm Joe Lisi. Have a great weekend.